This particular episode of the Nonprofit Exchange is a story of a man who had a vision for something and turned it into a nonprofit, and it's the only one of its kind, I think, anywhere. So David Swartz, welcome to the Nonprofit Exchange.
Well, thank you very much, Hugh and Russell, for having me on your show. Let me make one little correction. We're the only one in the United States open to the public at this time.
Great.
Others are going to say they're going to try, but we're the only one at this time.
And I told you I sold a lot of those cameras when they were new. They're so older than that. I mean, what's the oldest camera you have in the collection?
I have a lens from 1850, whole camera, probably 1868.
That's before
photography
me.
started in 1839, and Stanton, where I'm located, his first photographer was 1847.
1847. Now, they didn't have film back then, did they?
No, it was plates. It was called daguerreotypes.
My goodness. So, folks, we're having this very technical discussion, but we're going to take it off the technology here. We're going to go back to actually technology in the right word. Technical would refer to cameras. Let's go back, David. We have people on this listening to the podcast who will be watching this video who have a vision, an idea for something, and they don't know that it's possible. I mean, you've done this for quite a while. Talk about, just a minute, your history as a merchant, as a photographer. What is your background? What brought you to today?
Okay, I came to the store when I was a junior in high school. The president of the business was a 50-year master photographer, Margot Kent. And I liked the portrait side for a while. And so I was the grunt person, focusing the camera all the time. But I liked the actual pieces of equipment better. So she was president of this business, and I came down to the store, and I just stayed here. And I've been here since I'm junior in high school. Now, come next May 30th, it'll be 50 years for me.
Wow. Same place?
No, different location, same business.
Same business.
We were just around the corner, so just about a block away.
Oh, my goodness. So Stanton is spelled Staunton.
That's right.
When I ask Siri, she says Staunton. She's not from there.
She thinks she's from New York.
Yeah. So let's talk about this entity called what do you call this nonprofit? What's the name of it?
The Camera Heritage Museum.
The Camera Heritage Museum. And when did you actually form this nonprofit?
December 5th, 2011.
Okay, so it's relatively new.
Relatively new. The biggest problem was it was easy to get the nonprofit. I thought would be hard. The hard part was getting the certificate of the state of Virginia to raise funding. So we had to go through the Department of Agriculture to get a certificate so we could raise the money. We just got that about 2 months ago now.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Now we can raise big money. Now before that we could raise small money. We couldn't get grants or big money before that.
So a lot of nonprofits just start going and they start raising money. They don't realize they have to register with whatever state they're in.
Department of Agriculture, which is a very unusual, not Department of Taxation, Department of Agriculture.
And that may vary from state to state. We're in you and I are both in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and I think we do some things a little differently. So when did you first have a vision for starting a nonprofit?
When my son didn't want to have any part of the cameras at all. And I just didn't want to start selling off the collection.
Back up from there. When did you start the collection?
I started the day after I came to the store.
Oh my.
I bought a camera from a person and paid $75 for it. I was only making $57.64 a week. And I asked for a week's advance on salary to buy it. And my boss thought I was crazy.
Well, isn't that a prerequisite for being in the camera store business?
I think so.
All right. So you started a collection. Now, all of these cameras, now people can see the cameras behind you, but that's only a small sampling of what you got. Do you have an inventory list that tells how many items you have in that store? museum?
We have approximately 6,000 cameras in the total collection. Not all of them are totally inventoried yet because we have gotten 2 huge collections have come in. So we have not completely compiled the total collection.
So why did you start this nonprofit?
Well, I called Eastman House. They were showing a small version of a small collection down the hallway in the mansion, but they're not showing the huge collection that's in their main vault. And they said they're never going to show it. Then I talked to Smithsonian. They had 2 actually small cases just like what's behind me, and that's what they were showing cameras. Then they took them out, and they're not showing any now. Now, the only ones they're showing are in aircraft. They're mounted in the aircraft bombs of the planes. That's the only things they're showing. And they put them in the warehouse. So they're not going to show them again. So we decided to open this up as a nonprofit so the public can see what these cameras actually look like. It's nice to see them as a picture, but to actually come up close and almost touch and see what proportions are. It's a big lot different.
Sweet. Yeah, it's easy to use.
Sorry, we had a little question about the feed for we're broadcasting this live on Facebook too. So, Dave, say that last sentence again because we had a little noise come on.
I'm not sure what the last sentence was, but I'll give it a try. The Smithsonian and the George Eastman House have huge collections, but they're not going to put them on show. So we looked at if there was any others in the United States, and there were no other camera museums open to the public. There's a lot of private collections, but nothing open that people can actually see. And there's a difference when you can actually see it and almost feel it. You get a proportion of size, and what really the photographer went through. Some of these are pretty large, a lot of them are small. So it's a whole variation. They all do the same thing.
Yeah, yeah. So there are museums for artifacts with the different kinds of collections. Like I was in Reno, Nevada. There's a wonderful classic car collection that goes back the same number of years as your cameras. Why did you decide that this should be a nonprofit instead of a for-profit business?
That's a good question. I thought it would be better as a nonprofit. Thought we could probably raise more money to get a larger location because this is by far too small. On the whole exhibit we have on our floor, we're showing about 1/3 of what we got. And that's not a lot.
Oh my goodness. I was amazed when I saw what you have. If I'd seen the rest, it would have blown my mind. So an awful lot of people, I mean an awful lot of people with ideas, and they're straddling the fence. Should I have a for-profit business? Should I have a nonprofit? Now there's lots more regulations with a nonprofit side as far as how you manage the money. And once you put all the cameras in the collection, that belongs to the nonprofit, and you can't take them home yourself. So yes, you're right. There's I think when you and I spoke, I teach nonprofits. There's 8 streams of revenue that can fund. And David, what I see here is you've created a legacy.
I like to think that, but it's not about me. I just like to see these things preserved because the next generation has no concept of what film cameras are anything about.
I live down the road in Lynchburg. I just moved from Blacksburg. And this morning I went down to a frame shop because I got an old house. You got to have those hooks, that hang at the molding at the top, like in a gallery.
We're a frame shop also.
Yes. Oh, that's right. I got to call you. Anyway, I went around the corner and there's the Lynchburg Camera Store, and it was like going back in history. And you probably know those folks, but they don't sell old cameras.
One of the few, I think it's one of the last 5 in Virginia.
Yeah. And so it's when I operated my camera store in Madeira Beach in St. Pete, Florida, I saw 45 over the 17 years I ran this store. I saw 45 camera stores close up. It was in transition. It was just before electronic digital imaging came along. So we're talking today to Dave Schwartz. Dave, what is your title with this museum?
I'm the curator.
You're the curator, but you're also the visionary and the founder, correct?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So you're the one that holds the vision for this, correct?
I believe I do.
So I want to talk about how do we start up a nonprofit and how do we make sure that our vision is faithfully executed, and it's not about you. This museum will live on in perpetuity, and it will be, you know, a legacy, and you'll have an endowment fund that's going to preserve it for time immemorial. And if share the vision for the future, you want to have your own facility and certainly a larger facility. Russell, you've been perusing the website, and when you logged on early, we talked about how amazing the collection is. What questions or observations do you have for our guest today?
Oh, I'd like to welcome you, David. It's good to see you again, 2 weeks in a row. And
Nice meeting you.
you know, I just thought it was, you know, I wasn't sure what you did, but then I went onto your website and I thought, how cool is that? You get a camera guy to talk about vision. I'd like to think that I would like to think that was deliberate, but you know, if it wasn't, you know, anything to stop the age and mental condition thing. But you know, endangered artifacts, you know, I was reading some stuff on the site about how many different types of cameras that were actually manufactured. And I see that you guys are on the top 10 endangered artifacts list. You've been there for 2 years in a row. What is that list and who put it together?
That's the Virginia Museum in Richmond. They're going to change it a little bit this year, so I don't know what we're going to be doing, how they're going to redo it, but they're going to change it from what they were the past 4 or 5 years they were doing.
Yeah. Do you see these older cameras as endangered artifacts? How did they come to be categorized as endangered artifacts?
Oh, I definitely think they're endangered because I think most of them are getting thrown in the trash or just truly, they are being thrown in the trash. One prime example, when we came nonprofit, December 5th of 2011, in January of 2012, Linda Gray, the curator down at LSU at Lafayette, had a huge collection that they say either we take it or we're going to have to throw it in the dump. One thing about a nonprofit, they have to give it to another nonprofit or it has to be destroyed.
Mm.
And I think our IRS law that should be changed, but I can't change it, but that is the law. We were the only museum open that were accepted. The problem was they asked us to pay for the shipping up to us. We couldn't afford it at the time. So I got some friends, Chuck Wilson down at Wilson Trucking, which is now no longer, they just sold out, was very gracious and gave us from Memphis to Stanton free. It was a beautiful gift. And he got his friend from LSU to Memphis to give it to a very reduced rate. And we got it. And it was a wonderful collection. And they were going to just throw it in the trash. So that was our first gift.
Okay.
Wow.
Well, yeah, it's kind of strange because on the one hand, you had people that just wanted to chuck it into the landfill, and most of these cameras or stuff like this is sitting in private collections. It's kind of like one extreme to the other. And how much success have you had at talking with people that have private collections? Are there people, a lot of them out there with some interest in displaying their cameras, whether they gift them to you or loan them to you? What's the interest level?
I don't know what the interest level on the gifting on loan. We don't want to take something on loan because of the insurance and the liabilities of it. Gifting, yes, we would love to have. The problem is the families, this is an older generation who love these cameras. I mean, they've had them for the years and they become like family. They just don't want to turn them over. When they do turn them over, it's usually a widow or a child inherited them. And that's when we get it. The problem is, it should be pre decided upon before the person dies or whatever he wants to do. It also needs to be recorded, and they need to be appraised by an official appraiser before they give them to a museum. We have a collection that was just given to us that it was not appraised beforehand, and we can't find an appraiser. So we have a huge collection. He drove down from Connecticut, brought us a beautiful collection. Now we got to find an appraiser. We can't find an appraiser. I cannot appraise it by law because I'm part of the museum. We can't find one. It's a problem. There's less and less of us type people who understand this materials. I hope IRS will change some of the laws a little bit. We'll see.
Well, there's there's very specific, and Russell knows about IRS. That was one of his former employers. And there's rules there to protect our tax system. But Dave, I think it's an important fact. Let our viewers know where you are, and if they do have some historic cameras or lenses or any artifacts that relate to photography with film, where would they contact you?
You can get us on our website. We have cameraheritagemuseum.com. On our Facebook page, again, Camera Heritage Museum. We're the only one that's on the web, the only camera museum in the United States open to the public. So it's the first one. Very easy to contact. But first, I would suggest go to your accountant first. See what the accountant says to do. Get the appraiser before you do any paperwork. Then, if you want to donate, then you already have your appraising part, which IRS requires. Then we proceed from there. We have our forms on our website for all that, for donations.
Great.
But the main thing is the appraising first.
Appraising first, to make sure there's a bona fide value. In your narrative, when we were starting, you talked about working for a woman who was a master photographer. That was an earned title to the Professional Photographers of America, and you had to prove your worth, and there was a whole qualification process to be able to use that term, master photographer. Correct?
That's right. You have to, it's a three-part thing. You have to teach, you have to exhibit and win in the exhibits, and then you have to be in the business to do. And it has to work all together, and you have to prove yourself as a good photographer.
But you worked for somebody that was that classic portrait artist.
And then I got and won my points and everything. And I went to Winona School of Photography and got mine.
You did?
And proceeded on. I've just stayed and done this.
So you're more intrigued by the equipment than you are on the actual photography side.
Like the portrait side, still do a little bit of it, but I like the camera part better.
Well, before we talk, and then the other one you were talking about, the Eastman House, that was George Eastman.
That's right.
And Eastman was Eastman Kodak.
That's right.
And there was
a lot of people don't know what the word Kodak means. It means nothing. He made it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, next time he'll dream up something wackier like Polaroid.
There's a good question. A lot of people don't understand. Dr. Land did not create instant photography. It was a tintype. He was a chemical engineer. He just speeded up the process and put it on paper. That was it.
Actually, there's a lot of people that made things happen that didn't think it up. Like the Wright brothers, they weren't the first ones to fly, and they didn't invent it; it already existed. They just were famous for making it work. So, Dave, we're going to do something visual, so the people listening to the podcast can go to the website and look at our video. Do you have any show and tell things you want to show us?
Oh, I got a beautiful one right here. This happens to be a combat graphic from the Korean War, and interchangeable lenses. This thing they called it Gulliver's Contacts. It was a great product.
What was its purpose? What was it used for?
Aerial. This aerial reconnaissance, you just wind it up on the bottom and fire. 50 pictures on a roll.
And what was unique about the film that it shot on?
It was 70 millimeter, which is 3 to 4 times larger than 35. So it gave a lot bigger resolution, a lot better clarity.
There was real high resolution, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, the lenses were made by Schneider Kreuznach in Germany.
Wow. What else do you have there?
We got the, this is what most of the press photographers after the war, the Nikon F. This was what you saw at all the newspaper, the White House briefing staffs to everywhere, all over the country, all the sports photographers. This was the good old standby, the Nikon F Atomic. That was back in the 70s.
Nikon really made inroads into the newspaper market because they dominated that market, didn't they?
For a little while, yes, they did. Well, now it's Canon, Nikon, back and forth. They jostle back and forth. One little camera I have, and I think this is quite a nice little camera. This was owned by Bernie Boston. Bernie Boston was the famous White House photographer representing the Washington Star, then LA Times. And this was the actual camera used when Ronald Reagan was shot. The images that you saw in the newspaper was taken with this camera.
Wow. It's got a story behind it.
What was real nice, Bernie and I were personal friends. His widow was on my board of this museum for the first 5 years. So I've got a lot of his collection. One of probably my finest camera I love, and this just walked in the door, was this camera. And it looks like just a big old piece of military piece of junk, but it was the actual camera used at Pearl Harbor by the Japanese.
Oh my goodness.
It was made by Konica. 120 roll film, and it works perfectly as good as the day it was made.
Now, Konica had a really high quality product. I remember calling around looking for some lenses and somebody telling me that all the people that had worked at Canon at the time, their personal cameras were Konica because the lens quality was so much better.
The Hexar lenses were wonderful lenses, yes.
And it's an example like Sony really invented VHS, but they went on to perfect the format to go beta, but they weren't good at marketing and they licensed JVC to market it. And
right.
They weren't good at marketing, they were good at inventing things.
They've done many mistakes throughout their years, yes.
Yeah.
So proprietary, yes.
Yeah, Konica was really good at manufacturing. They didn't quite get their marketing piece together. I think Nikon almost gave away cameras. Maybe they did give away cameras to significant press photographers. So
yes.
they immersed themselves in that market, owned that market.
That's right. And I do have one of the military, Leicas. Leica being the prestigious of all the cameras. It's the only camera that was allowed in the courtroom for many, many years because it was so quiet.
There's no mirror.
No mirror. There's a rangefinder. Now, this particular one is the K7A, which is the U.S. military. They only made 550 of these for the U.S. military. And
it's brass underneath there, isn't it?
Brass underneath it, yes.
Yeah, and the chrome ones are chrome on top of brass, and they're pretty heavy and substantial.
Yes.
I understand up to a certain point, and maybe it's any of them, every Leica that was ever made is worth more used than it was new.
I would say 99.9% of them, yes. There's a couple duds, but very few. Leica is very good.
That's amazing. It's an appreciating asset, unlike other items. So the name Arthur Felig was a famous photographer.
Do not know that one.
Ouija.
Ouija, yes.
Ouija.
Yes.
That was his stage name. His real name was Arthur Felig.
Okay, I knew about Ouija, yes.
So what did he do? Do you have anything from him?
No, I do not. I would love to have some. I do have John Wilkes Booth's family album. I have Robert E. Lee's official portrait supposed to be for Washington College that they could not use because he did not button his vest. He did that on purpose because he didn't want to put that suit back on after the war. So it was called improper dress.
Wow. Alfred Eisenstadt.
Another good one. O. Winston Link. We have one right down the road from us in Lexington. Sally Mann, a wonderful photographer. She does wet plate clothing. She still does.
Amazing. So Alfred Eisenstadt was the famous life photographer, right?
Yes.
And supposedly he had two Leicas, one with a wide angle, one with a slight telephoto, and he took everything with those two cameras.
That's why I said Leica. That's why I have several. We have over 100 in our collection.
So it's not only the equipment; it's the eye behind that that's able to capture.
I would say very much the eye, but the optics help a lot. A lot of people think the bodies mean a lot. The body today with electronics, I would say, is about 30% of the total outcome. The lens, I would say, is really 50%, and then the other is if you can know how your eye compose the picture.
Yeah. So Leica, the lenses with Leica are just as sharp, wide open as, mostly you have to stop down a lens to have it really sharp, and but Leica's well wide open.
They were the best because Oscar Bonac, who invented the Leica, had asthma. He couldn't carry these big plate cameras around. So he developed a small camera system. But Ernst Leitz II didn't want to put it out until he proved it.
Lovely. Do you have anything from the Brady brothers from the Civil War time?
No, I do not. A lot of people don't realize, but most of the Brady plates were repurposed. Matthew Brady himself was going blind at the time because of doing daguerreotyping. Daguerreotyping uses mercury. Mercury poisoning, Mad Hair's disease. He couldn't see. So you had Gardner and O'Sullivan. But those plates afterwards were repurposed, and they were put in greenhouses. And they're lost now.
Oh my goodness. Well, it's clear that there's a whole lot of stories attached to these precious artifacts that you have.
Oh, definitely.
So when you had a vision for this, what was the first thing you did? It was probably before you got this nonprofit tax exempt status in 2011. So before that, you started thinking of preserving this collection and moving it forward. So talk about, what was your vision, and then what's your vision for the future?
Well, my vision then was just a collection, show people. I did not understand nonprofit at all. When I started learning nonprofit, I had to do a lot of self-education. There's not a lot of places where you can find that stuff out, except if you want to read book after book. But they have all the same type things. It's not very easily read and easy to put together because IRS law is very, very specific what you can do with certain things.
So what's your vision? What's your vision for going forward, the future?
We need help. We try and get some new people on our board that are really interested, or other people to give us a hand. We are now trying to acquire the P. Buckley Moss building that is about 9 miles east of us in Waynesboro, right off the 64 exit. Virginia Tech owns it. She gave it to Virginia Tech with $6 million in cash. It was built as a museum. It's ideally suited for what we want. And it's been sitting empty for 5 years, and it's going in total disarray. I hate to see it happen that way.
Yes, P. Buckley Moss is a legendary artist.
Yes.
And she lives in that area and paints the
She does. She lives in Lyndhurst. She has her barn.
Yeah, and she paints the unique style. She paints the Amish community there. Very unique, very famous, very prosperous and successful artist. So, Dave, your vision, if I'm understanding your vision, is to have a self-standing facility. You can display all of your artifacts. Will there be some storytelling or education or other kinds of activities?
We want to have total education. Right now we're doing a GoFundMe, Facebook. We're raising funding, trying to do some funding that way right now. But if we get the new building, we would like to have 3 different dark rooms: wet collodion, the tintyping, and traditional dark room, and teach it. We would like to have some professors come down from RIT and from the George Eastman House to give lectures. We could have almost like a little school there because it's just beautiful location. It's beautiful scenery to take pictures in. It would be ideal.
And a lot of people, you might have a class on how to make your photos archival, because a lot of people don't realize that your old photographs will revert to silver over time.
Not totally silver. It depends on how they were washed.
Right.
What we have done is we have digitized most of the collection. We have glass plates. We have about almost 3,000 glass plates. This was an old bank, and they're in a vault, and they're temperature controlled.
Oh.
I handle one glass plate almost every day, and there is no degradation I can see to it unless you scratch it. It's a wonderful product. I mean, it's almost ideal, and that thing's over 100 years old.
Wow. I'm thinking of just the normal old pictures from the 30s, 40s, 50s that people have in their drawer. They're turning brown.
They're turning brown because the chemist or the pharmacist at the time, because that's where most of them were being processed, did not understand that you had to wash the salts out of the paper. If you wash the salts longer out of the paper, they will last longer. Even today, if you take that old black and white image, put it back in water and wash it for another 10 minutes, it probably could last a lot longer, and just lay it flat down and dry.
Great. Well, David Schwartz is the curator of this one-of-a-kind in America collection. And I bet if there's collections other places in the world, they're not exactly like yours. So it's unique in all the world, I'm sure.
The one thing I have to say is we have gotten 3 to 4 very large other collections from other private donors. There are some fantastic pieces of products that we're going to get lost because the families were going to just throw them away.
Well, we'd like to publicize that you're taking in collections, and you and I are talking about CenterVision partnering with you to create your future vision, help you think about your board and to grow your revenue streams and to acquire, those buildings and those classes to realize your vision, because it takes more than one person to launch that. You and I met just by me stopping in, but I do have a pretty vested interest in what you're doing here. And I think I can, we're in a conversation about how CenterVision can help this museum be the dominant museum and serve others. And you might even have, I know art museums have rotating collections from other famous art museums. So
that is true.
The collections that aren't on display, there may be some negotiation for a partial loan of those.
That's what we've already talked to with the Smithsonian. If we can get the building, because we have to have the museum standards, we'll be part like a satellite of the Smithsonian. Then we can borrow from their master collection and have rotations. And we possibly, now I have not talked to Todd Gunnison, who's the head curator for down at Eastman House. He might be able to do the same type thing, which would be nice to be able to show these nice old artifacts instead of being locked up and never be seen again. It's nice to see them in pictures, but to see it in real life, it's entirely different.
It is quite different. Russell, what are you thinking? We're nearing the end here.
I want to hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the educational aspect, because just a couple of those cameras that you showed us have a significant history. So have you recorded that or written some books around it? Or?
Yes, we have. I'll just grab one around the corner here. I obtained this one just a couple of months ago. This is one of 100 brownies that were stereo that were made. They're pretty rare. And like I said, somebody was probably going to throw this thing away. And it is absolutely beautiful. And this is I think this was 1905. Yes, this was 1905.
Yeah, so I think some books on the history, and I mean, you could probably categorize those by manufacturer, by year, and because you got some.
That has already been done. There's plenty of books out there. That's not the problem. The books are out there. The images are on the internet. What we want people to come in and actually see it. And we can't let them touch it, but I mean, they get right up close and personal to it. And it tells a lot. It's entirely different than just seeing it on a book.
Well, I was thinking if you could get people to read the book, or you could make some videos.
That would help. Oh, yes.
Video tours just to get them to come in would be great. And I'm thinking, well, they're rare, but maybe some education, live courses or online courses on that type of photography and the history of photography, just as a way to stir up some interest and
that's true
people through the door. Because I mean, once without dedicated folks like yourself, all of this knowledge, all of this history is in danger of falling by the wayside.
We're not the only one. Yes. Well, I mean, we're just in cameras, but it's in every form of life. That's exactly right.
David Schwartz, you have a passion for something very unique, and it comes across. I look forward to exploring the future with you and seeing how we can, at CenterVision, be a champion for the uniqueness that you have in preserving this history as a legacy and educating people on what really happened in those eras. John Wilkes Booth, Ronald Reagan, those important places in history where that camera was, and it captured that slice of history. You're in, so am I. I'm in Lynchburg. You're in Stanton. Stanton is a wonderful downtown. It's preserved its history, has a world-class Shakespeare theater there. So wherever you are, you'll be close to that, but you'll be in Waynesboro if you get that building. But David, we want to encourage people to contact you if they have collections. We want to encourage people. It's not far off of I-81 going, up by the
North and south. We're right at the intersection of 64.
Yeah. And it's easy to get there, and it's not far from getting off the interstate. If you're going north, south, or east or west on one of those interstates, 64 or 81, it's worth popping over there and taking a look. And I think
right now, like I said, we're right downtown, and right across the street from us, we have SunTrust Bank, and they have the most wonderful skylight. It's absolutely huge. 2 blocks up from us, we have Trinity Church. There are 8 Lewis Comfort Tiffany windows in there. 2 of them are hand signed. They're priceless. I mean, we have a lot of historical artifacts in this area.
Oh my goodness. Well, David Schwartz, you're taking time from your busy day to share with people. What I want to leave people with is, if you have a vision for something, you can make it happen. So put people around you who are competent and make it happen. Don't give up on your vision. I bet you there were times that people wanted you to give up, David, and you said, nope, I'm going to do this. Am I right?
I still have people who want me to give up. They want me to retire. I mean, 50 years here, it gets a little tiring, but I love it. And I would love to get some people who are interested in this to come in and help.
Well, I'm interested, so we'll be talking more. Russell, thank you for being here today. This is a great thing to share, wasn't it?
It is. It's fabulous. And so I put some links up for people to find directions and to donate cameras and information on why to donate. But make sure you go to the CameraHeritageMuseum.com website and just check around. It's just fascinating. I never gave old cameras a thought, and I'm just kind of curious, out of the collection, how many of those that Hugh actually owned one of over the course of his lifetime. So
I had over 2,300 of them were mine.
Okay.
That's an impressive. Look on Facebook. Every day we put up a new camera and we tell a little something about it. We like to have the new likes on Facebook and Twitter. And look at TripAdvisor. If they're coming through the area, this is a great spot to stop and take a look at.
David Schwartz.
We have 2 types of tours. We have a $5 tour. You just walk around, you take a look by yourself. We have a $7.50 tour, which is an audio tour we just started. And if you want a self-guided curator tour myself, it's $20. And I spend well over an hour with you.
That's a deal, David. And
yeah, because there's so much, just a wealth of information that you can give people. So that's I'll have to call you when I'm out east.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I have to get Hugh out of there before he walks away with some of that stuff.
We appreciate you.
Russell's out there where they have those young mountains. They got points on them.
Oh, yes. You are. Thank you for having me on your show.
Great. Well, the Facebook feed dropped out. We'll post it up there later on. But David Schwartz, you're a man who had a vision and you made it happen, phase one, and you're going to make phase two happen. And we're going to partner with you and make sure it happens. Blessings to you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Good day.